Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Stories. It is such a pleasure to welcome my guest, Aubry Hoffman. I'm going to hear from her in a second. Yes. But I'm going to start us off with an opening blessing. And this is a quote from Rumi that I came across today again it's just so good and perfect for our topic for today. So Rumi says, I have been a seeker and I still am. But I stopped asking the books and the stars, and I started listening to the teaching of my own soul. So good.
Perfect. Yes.
So good. It's such a pleasure to welcome Aubry Hoffman. Um, Aubry and I met at a women's solstice gathering a few years ago and just really connected. And I think what I value the most about you is the way that you show up with so much deep wisdom and authenticity, and you're such a portal to spirit, and we can just be really friggin' real with each other. It's like the only way I want to be in the world, and it was such a pleasure to be on your podcast, The Queen of Intuition. Aubry invited me on to talk about heartbreak, which is not my usual content, but was so fun. So the whole reason that I've created Sacred Stories is the knowing that in listening to others' stories, we hear our own. And I'm really excited to dive into this conversation today. And Aubry, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jessica. And I just feel like I have to throw it right back at you and anyone that knows you knows that you have this beautiful gift of seeing people and putting it into words so beautifully. So thank you for that
So
introduction. I feel truly seen, and I know that's a gift you give to many. But yes, I'm so glad each of you are here. My name is Aubry. My brand is the Queen of Intuition. I'm an intuitive, a psychic. I do psychic readings, energy readings for people. And I just started, this is new. I just have a brand new it's going to grow into an institute, but it's a psychic development institute. And my very first class filled within a few weeks, and it starts this weekend. So my podcast and my readings is sort of morphing now into a school where I'm bringing a lot of people in. And really, the purpose behind all of my work is to empower you to know. And I really believe that if you're watching this today, it's because you need to be reminded and you need to know that you are deeply intuitive, you are psychic, you have the power within you, these superpowers within you to know with such great clarity. And part of my work is just waking that up in people. So, yeah, the Queen.
sign me up. That's what I have to say. Like, yes, yes, please. Oh my God.
Yeah. So my story, when Jessica, you asked me to be on, of course I kind of meditated for a few minutes and tapped into my story. And I usually don't go so far back in time, but I wanted to go all the way back to the story of my upbringing, which was very unusual in a way. I was a preacher's daughter in a small town of 60 people in a town called Hamlet, Nebraska. I had 5 children in my family. We were like a percentage of the town's population. And the whole story is about around being homeschooled. And this is back in the early 80s. I feel like homeschooling has gained a little bit more popularity now, especially because of COVID, right? Everyone's talking about homeschooling. But we were homeschooled. My parents did it for religious reasons to keep us away from all the, bad sinners out there in the world. But now I seek out the sinners. But they did it to keep us home. But it was a very unusual, bizarre upbringing because it was such a small town, and my siblings and I ended up being completely isolated from other children and at home most of the time, except for going to church. And I remember, people didn't understand homeschooling. I remember going to the post office one time with my mom, the small post office, and the postmaster told my mom, I'm going to call social services on you today because you're keeping your kids home. So it was like this, people didn't understand what my parents were doing. They thought it was weird in a way, abusive in a way. Nobody understood. And we tried to join like local sports teams or local events from the local public school, which we should have been able to join. We were like tax-paying citizens, and the public school even had
Wow.
the board voted different rules, like homeschoolers cannot come into our school, they cannot use our gym, they cannot use our playground. There was a bunch of really interesting things that happened. So it was like all growing up, I felt like I was doing something really wrong, or my family was doing something really wrong. It was just very unusual. And I remember worrying, like, am I going to get educated? Am I going to be socialized? I had all of these thoughts, and these were the thoughts that everybody around me had too. It was just so different in a small town in Nebraska to keep your kids home all day.
Yeah, yeah.
Not only that, it was more of an unschooling situation where my siblings and I really taught ourselves.
Huh.
So I won't go too much more into that story. I ended up, taking the test. What do you need to take to get into college? It's been so many years. The ACT or whatever. I ended up taking
Yeah.
going to college and having a very non-traditional life. And that's sort of what I want to talk about. It was the beauty of being raised so completely different. So like, there were so many other layers. I mean, there were so many other layers to how it was so different, how it was raised and so isolated. But what it did for me, and this is actually what I want to get across for everybody watching, the intention, the energy that's coming through my words and my intention with what I'm doing here is an absolute liberation of every single one watching this liberating energy of whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to be, whatever it is that you dream of, it doesn't have to look like any other formula out there. It doesn't have to look like anyone else is doing. There is, and just how I knew with my life, there is some sort of mission, some sort of fire, some sort of passion inside of you, and it's going to come through no matter what. For those of you wanting to sort of start your own business and be in some sort of service, there's all sorts of formulas out there on what it looks like to show up and start your own business. Or for those of you wanting to heal from deep patterning and wounding, there's also just a very common vernacular, very common formula of what it looks like to heal. And I think that's the message coming through my story, Jessica, and feel free to interrupt me because I'm just going and going, but that's the message coming through my story, is that something about being homeschooled and having everything done to me that wasn't traditional and having everything done in my life that everybody said wasn't supposed to work. You're never going to be social. Look at me. I'm socialized. I'm educated. All the things that everybody said couldn't happen actually did. So I think it's just the portal to open your mind. Like right now, I think you're listening and you have these ideas about how the healing has to look, how the launch has to look, how the change has to look, how the money has to come in. But what if the way it was going to happen for you, and I truly believe that right now there are so many new creative ideas streaming into our consciousness. What if it looked like something that you couldn't even imagine? Like at the time, that's what my parents did. They were able to educate us in a way that nobody else was doing, that nobody else could imagine, like pulling your kids out of school and teaching them everything they needed to know in an hour a day, which is how much school I did, for 18 years.
Right.
So yeah, that's the question for you to think about right now, is like, and that's the story that my life gave me, and that's sort of, my life continued like that. Like I never had a normal job. I always had my own businesses.
I love this so much, Aubry, because there's been a phrase that's been reverberating through my being for like the last 6 months, really, since the beginning of this exciting year. And that is exploding paradigms. And just feeling so called to like create my own path that is aligned with my heart, and I'm thinking about what you were saying, both about creating something is beyond what you can even imagine. And for me, what it's been actually a little more is I know exactly what I want. I just am having trouble living that way. So I'm wondering, I think I'm feeling called to share a little bit of kind of what's like, just let's be radically authentic here. I'll share a little bit kind of what I'm dancing with, and would be curious to hear kind of what's coming in for you around that, because I imagine it's something that perhaps other people are feeling too. There's another phrase reverberating through me, and that is radical simplicity. Mm-hmm. I like putting radical in front of anything. And I just have such a clear vision of my life that is professionally like touching other people's lives, helping them connect with their own inner wisdom, helping them connect with all of the joy and sizzle that they have in them, and co-creating with the universe like from that energy, and just nestling myself into the loving arms of nature and being an amazing girlfriend and partner, and just having like this radically simple and beautiful life. And I feel it like so deeply. My soul is bellowing this to me. And yet I'm finding that just like adulting in this world that we live in, there's so much coming at us. There's so much to kind of take care of if we decide we want to buy into, that way of being. And then of course, like being an entrepreneur and all of the juggling of networking and nourishing our current community and finding ways to actually make money. And I have like a lot of little gigs that I'm juggling. Even just saying it, like I feel all the stuff. And so I'm curious to hear, like, you're such a beautiful teacher of this story of not following anyone else's path and listening to your own heart, and then also being such a channel to spirit. I don't know if there's anything that's coming in for you that feels like it might be helpful for me or others to hear.
For everyone, yeah. I mean, my first question is, when you think of the simplicity, I felt that. It felt
I
so good.
know.
I mean, what you're imagining, I think you're tapping into what we all want. It is like an image of the new earth. It's what so many of us are trying to create. And there's all these systems and structures in place that are sort of like this corrupt program that are blocking us in some way. But what do you think needs to happen for you to have that life of simplicity? I'm just curious. And then I want to bring some stuff through. Like, when you think of, in order for you to have that simple life, what are you doing?
Well, what I was going to say actually was not what I was doing, but was a little bit more of a way of being.
Yeah.
And that is, you shared some of your thoughts about what we might talk about beforehand. And one of the things you said is like the way that spirit mystery source is calling to right now is releasing control, especially through the gentle whispers of nature, which I loved. And this theme of releasing control and surrender has come up on so many of our sacred stories conversations. It's such an invitation that we're getting right now. And so what's coming in for me actually is that there is another way to create this professional vision that I have. And it's really like deeply, it's magic, it's like being in partnership with spirit and letting things come in ways that are unexpected and abundant, and that are not necessarily like a formula of social media posts or specific offerings or regular emails or whatever. So I don't know, what's popping in for me is like let's get super woo on this, and do it that way. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I love that. I mean, that's what it was coming through for me too. I just keep thinking of the story of my parents, that they just had that thought back in the late 70s, like, my kids just are never going to go to school, and everybody else is like, what? That's crazy. And so I think it's that similar feeling. The message that I'm getting that's coming through, it is really woo-woo, Jessica, but I think the beauty of these times is that there is so much chaos and so much fear and so much crumbling around us. And I just did an energy update this morning on my Instagram around coronavirus, and it's just going to get worse, Jessica.
Yeah,
It's
going
to get more chaotic. And so the message that is coming through for you, but it's also coming through for everyone here, is like, there is help from the unseen world, and different people would talk about it in different ways. Some people would say God, some people would say angel guides, some people would say ancestors. People say all sorts of things.
All of them,
whatever resonates with you. That there is help. There's many beings that are here to help us, and we can't see them. But that we are not capable of what you were saying, the posts, the balancing, all the things that you read about in the magazines when you're checking out at the grocery store, like here's how to have a meditation practice and yoga to calm your nervous system and all these things that we're supposed to do to balance all this stuff. Life is literally making it impossible for us not to do that. And so it sounds even woo-woo for me to say this, but yes, when you're saying the magic, it's something about a complete surrender and literally asking, okay, angels, God, spirit, we need a miracle. So I'll tell you how that's showing up in my own business, because for me, I get very overwhelmed. You know, I have an online business. I get very overwhelmed with the idea of sales funnels and buying Instagram ads and buying Facebook ads. So something that I've been doing for about 6 months now, and I've personally made more money in my business in the past 6 months than I have in the past 6 years. Okay. So this is what I've been doing is I will literally go into a deep state of meditation and I will say, Spirit, Source, God, show me who you want me to work with next. And I will see auras, I'll see colors and light, and I'll see people coming to me. And I'll say, I want to book 2 people in the next 2 days, you know, to do a reading, and 2 people will book. Okay. It sounds a little bit out there, but it's like I'm literally using meditation as my marketing plan. I am literally, that is what I'm doing right now.
I keep hearing this from like all of the people is
really
just asked to be shown. Yeah, asked to be shown. So for those listeners who are not as familiar with these practices, can you break this down for us a little bit? Like, how do you get into your meditation practice? How do you phrase the questions? And then when you talk about, there's so many different ways to connect with the invisible world. You know, some people see, some people hear, some people get it through writing, but maybe if you can offer some specifics, I think that would be super helpful.
I hear this all the time, or I hear people saying like, well, I can't see I don't see like you do, Aubrey. And it's this intersection of desperation almost and pain that gets us to a point where we'll try anything.
Yeah.
So I have to say that, like, if you're feeling at that point, or if you feel at that point in certain areas of your life, that's such a blessing, because when you get to that point, it is this thing of surrender where you're like, well, I have nothing less yet left to lose, and I've tried so many other things. But yeah, developing some sort of meditation practice. I don't even want to start there. I really want to I have all of my usual things I say, but hold on a second, Jessica. So, because I want to see what's coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to just say a blessing over everyone watching, because I say this in my readings a lot, but I see these little seeds. They're like little black sesame seeds, and I call them seeds of doubt. And I sometimes see them sort of like over people's and in people's energetic body. And I always say a prayer over people. I say, may these seeds of doubt be removed. And then I can kind of see like the seeds of doubt bursting into life. But I feel like for so many of you, there is just so much conditioning around doubt and lack. And even as we talk, it's like, can it really be this way? Can it really be that easy? Or like, meditation is hard and it's tricky and it's going to be hard to see guides, and I'm not going to be able to do what she's doing. And there's all of these programs of doubt. So I just ask for them to be removed. We don't really have time right now to be bogged down by these. So I just ask for these seeds of doubt to be removed, and for this feeling to come into your body, even as you're watching, this openness through your chest of like, it really is simple, like to put that belief into you, like it is simple to connect. It isn't years of a meditation practice. It isn't taking an expensive meditation course. It's not anything. It's like here now. It doesn't matter how much you eat or drink or drug or who you're dating, or if you're not out of the marriage, or you're all this stuff that you think you have to do to like connect. Like God is inside of you, and here now. It's like here now. So I would just say you have that desire. The desire awakens your ability to see. And you can have a moment. I even have like a little sacred altar set up here around my computer. You set for yourself a little space, 10 or more minutes, to just be alone. You set the intention either here or writing it down. I set this intention to connect to the help around me. I set the intention to connect to all the help in the unseen world. I usually invite people to close their eyes, and often in meditation, there's this idea we have to get rid of our thoughts. But in this instance, as you close your eyes, I ask to see the help that is available to me. Whatever image or thought comes to you first is source, is God, is angel. Some people see, and I do readings with people all the time. Some people can't see anything. Some people say, I see my dog sitting next to me. I'm like, beautiful. That is your guide. That spirit is your guide, you know? But to just trust that, to not second guess it, those images, those thoughts, the feelings that you have, it's all, we complicate it. Is that
Yeah.
making sense?
Yeah, I love it. And just like, oh my gosh, Aubrey, your vibration is so golden. Even just hearing the loving affirmation that you're giving each of us in terms of how we can create this for ourselves, like lands so deeply in my body. So thank you. I know that I found for myself that when my soul comes in, like when I ask my soul a question and then I get a response, it's usually very clear and concise and short and direct, and it feels like truth with a capital T. So that's another thing, kind of to invite people to listen or look for a little bit.
Yeah, like, and some of us are more connected to our bodies, but I always talk about your body. You know, the truth will feel, it will not feel like this in your body. You know, the truth will help you feel lighter and more open. But
Yeah,
now more than ever, there's just so much help available. There's so much assistance. Um,
yeah. I'm curious. I want to build a little bit on you sharing this idea of releasing control through the gentle whispers of nature. And I love anything having to do with whispering. It's a word I use a lot too. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday. I've been thinking a lot about why nature is so powerful, like trying to understand what it is. And I think for me, like the combination of feeling so grounded, like into our lower chakras, right, into Mother Earth, into her supporting us, and then also feeling all of like the beautiful metaphors for life and perspective on what's really important, and reconnection with like our own deepest essence, that to me is like the higher realms. It's like as above so below, it's like these two sides that kind of come together in nature for me. So I guess I'd love to hear a little bit more about surrender, nature, how they dance together, any guidance you want to offer us on deeper and deeper ways that we can surrender. Would love to hear those.
I'm so controlling, Jessica. It's come up more and more during COVID.
Yeah.
All the fear and uncertainty has come up. So this is a theme I've been playing with a lot.
Yep.
Um,
And deeper and deeper layers of it, I know, for all of us. Yeah.
yeah, deep. Yeah, when you think you've surrendered, surrender some more. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
we do that all the time. But yes, I think you just touched on it all. And I feel like if you're watching this right now, you're awake and you're on this journey, and you already know what I'm about to say. But it feels important to remind you, when we go out into nature, and not on a bike ride, and not on a hike, and not to work out, and not to camp, but just to be. Like, I always encourage people to do that. I mean, we're in Colorado, so people like, which working out in nature is great. But when you can actually just sit by a tree, sit in the forest, nothing else going on, and you start observing, and you really are reminded of the natural cycles of nature, how there's just birth and then death, and it never looks pretty. Like, if you're out in the middle of a forest, there's always like fallen trees, and there's decay, and then there's life. And it just reminds us that we're constantly trying to control our lives to be in this constant state of birth. You know, we constantly want to
Yeah.
be making things and making things. We want it to always be spring, because spring is perfect, right? It's
Right.
beautiful, blooming, and it's open. But nature is always reminding me that there is just death, and there is heat, and there is destruction, and there are tornadoes, and there are hurricanes. And I see it on a bigger level right now, how much humans have tried to control nature. And have not surrendered to her power. You know, I'm definitely a nature worshiper.
Yeah.
And in not surrendering, it's causing more chaos in nature too. And it's like the more we try to control, the more chaos is erupting. So for me, nature is just always reminding me of that. There's also a beautiful practice that you can do. Particularly, I like to do this with trees, where I'll go and I'll rest my forehead or my third
Yes. Yeah.
against the tree, and I'll just, and sometimes people, you know, I tell people I talk to trees, and they're like, "Do you hear a voice coming from the tree?" And I'm like, "No, we're all connected. We're all one." I go and be with nature, and the thoughts that flood into my head are the trees. You
Yeah.
know, people make this more complicated, and
Yeah.
they have psychics like hear or see. It's like you're psychic, and by psychic, you guys know what I'm saying. We're all intuitive. So to put your forehead against the tree for a while and just see what comes through. And oftentimes, what comes through to me from the trees is just this um, stop trying to make things happen and just let us give to you. I mean, that's what's coming through for all kinds of teachers right now in all different ways. But um,
Yeah.
nature always gives me that message to just keep opening and surrendering and stop trying to. We don't have to save nature. Nature wants to save us.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I love that. I've done that practice too many times. And I always get a message of like, oh, sweetheart, you don't have to worry. Like, you don't have to worry. That's a big one that comes in.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, Native Americans refer to trees as the one-leggeds, this idea that like they are people too. They just have one leg, you know, instead of two like us. And, you know, I think too of, I mean, nature has so many beautiful metaphors for how we can live, but like one tree doesn't say to another, oh, you're too gnarled, or you're bending to the left, or, you know, why are you growing in this place? There's such a, like, it's all beautiful and it's all part of this ecosystem. And I think getting back to your kind of original invitation to not not feel like we need to follow someone else's path and instead to follow our own heart and our own truth, like nature's such a reminder of that. Yeah.
I want to, there's so many metaphors in nature, and I wanted to go on more, but I want to touch on that again with the own path, because if you just think back through human history as it has been, there's always been ways of doing things until somebody came along. Like I think of, you know, with the, who, I think it was Edison who invented the light bulb, who many times was thrown into a mental institution.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
So I think about that too, or when I'm always telling people, like, ask your angels and they'll bring money to you, you know, and people might think that I'm crazy, but like, then I think about through all the people throughout time that had the idea and people thought they were crazy, and then whole new worlds were birthed. And I feel that we're at that tipping point again, Jessica.
Oh yeah.
Like so many of the ways of doing business and doing relationships, and it goes on and on and on. We need to be able to have crazy ideas like the invention of the light bulb. And so that's why, and nature's going to help us bring those ideas to us. But that's what I'm trying to get out here is like all the ways that you've been trying, if it feels like you're stuck and you haven't been able to get anywhere, and all in creating these visions you have for yourself, my invitation is, what if there's a way that you haven't ever, I'm just bringing it back to that. What if there's a way that you haven't ever thought of before that can come into you and through you and for you, and to be open to that. That's kind of fun.
It is kind of, that's the way I want to live. Goodness gracious. Yeah, it's the only way I want to live. Yeah. Do you have, I mean, you've talked about, you know, law of attraction and the energy that we put out there and all these really kind of important ways of being, but I'm going to push you a little bit because I know you can take it. Like for the people who would say, you know, I've been trying these practices and I've been trying to bring abundance in, you know, through like affirming all of the, you know, all that I already have and all these things, and it's not coming. You know, that there's like a push pull. You know, like I'm trying this, but it's not happening, and then we kind of get our knickers in a knot. Like, do you have any things that you like to play with when we feel like we're we're trying to create a certain life for ourselves and it's not happening the way we want it to, and then we get frustrated.
Yeah. So a lot of what I do too in my work is energy work. For a long time I did Reiki. I'm a Reiki master. So I always say, people ask what I do, and I'm like, I don't really know what I do. It's like a psychic reading, it's an energy reading, but it's really a healing. It's an energy healing, but it's not really a healing because you're already healed. I always, but for me, I see it as it's all energy. And I know not some people see it like this, but I see it all as energy. If you don't mind me actually just, do you mind me just using you as like a guinea, not
My
a
gosh,
guinea pig, using you?
please, please.
So when we were talking before about yes, because the affirmations are great, but you can like do affirmations and I am rich and look in the mirror and smile at yourself and like, I love my body. You can do that for years and not have a shift. So I see it as energy blocks and I see it as energy blockages. And so like, even when you were talking to me before we got on the call, I saw, it's hard to explain, but I saw like running through the center of your body, sort of like this little dark screen, not super black and dark, but this little dark screen. It was almost like I saw like the matrix numbers running on it. It was like all these codes and informations. For me, it was like a corrupt program.
Yeah.
It's still, and you were already healed, you're whole, you're perfect, right? But this is the kind of stuff that I do when I work with people. It's almost like a corrupt program of lack and unworthiness, and it's generational and it's ancestral, but I see it. And so even right now, you think this is just a visualization, but it's actually energy work. I see from the top of your body this code or this like screen that I see it just turning to light all through the middle of your being and all down again and shooting out through the center of you. And so and so
I felt that, Aubrey, like out my belly button, kind of.
and
Yeah.
so I see them working in tandem. I see, yes, the affirmations and the I believe in myself and the blessings and the thought is important, but I also see everything as energy, and it's not like icky stuff that has to stay in forever. It's stuff that can be pushed through and cleared. That's part of what I'm actually doing. I should probably rename it with my psychic development class, is I'm like teaching people all of the energy clearing, protection, healing stuff that I've learned over the past 15 years, because some of it is just it's energy, and I'm still wrapping my head around it all. I just know to see it, and I know that we have the ability to move it out. We also have the ability to bring in angels and guides when we're tired, because so many of us have done so much work, and ask them to move it out for us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
I know I'm going real woo woo on you here,
Oh,
Jessica,
I love it.
but
I'm hanging with you. Yeah, I'm tracking. And I think I feel like, so many of us are taught that we need to like keep it together and be on top of things, at least, well, maybe I'll say for many of us, as a way of creating security in our lives, if we had an unstable childhood or trauma or whatnot, like the reaction that kept us safe was staying on top of things and keeping it together and pushing a lot of shit down. And so to be able to create sacred space to like say, that is not my truth, it's not my story, like let's get that dark screen of numbers out
yeah,
there. Yeah.
and that's how I saw it. But also, like, this, I'm saying this to you, but this is for everybody watching. There's also, for me, yes, it's important to feel our feelings. It's important to move trauma through our body. I was in somatic therapy for years, and I teach those practices, moving sound through, moving trauma out of certain parts in our body. But I also feel my guides and my angels and every single person I work with, just I feel this, I'm channeling not just your highest self, but everyone's highest self. Like, I see how much work you've been doing. Like, if you're watching Jessica's thing right now, you have done retreats and you have done work and you have sat in therapy, or maybe you haven't, but you've been doing so, there's been so much density and so much heavy stuff to feel. And I think there's actually a lack program running, that there's like we just have to feel this stuff for years and years. And this is just what's been coming through for me, is
Yeah.
that, no, you are free now. It's like, I think
Yeah. Woo.
Jesus in the Bible,
Yeah.
who was like, I'm trying to think of the exact miracle Jesus performed, but it was like, he can walk because he believes. But Jesus came to heal those who believed that they could get up and walk. Jesus came to heal those who believed that he could put his hands over their eyes and they could see again. And so that's part of, I think, this new, I love all the healing modalities that have come to us in the past to help us deal with trauma. But I do think there's this new energy coming in for us to say, we're free. Yeah, it's done. It's over. The
And
energy moved out.
And it doesn't have to be this hard, heavy, decades long process.
Yes.
Right.
It's important to talk about it. It's important to feel it. But what I'm seeing so much in healing circles is that 10 years later, you're still feeling this energy that's coming up from your mother or your father. And it's not serving us. There's this new way coming in where we feel that energy that's coming up from our mother. We give it a shape. This is something I'm teaching in my course right now. We give it a shape, a color, a texture, and we literally visualize, like, we move it out. It's done. It's over, Yeah, there's layers. It can be more complicated, but it's way more simple too than so many people think it needs to be. This is part of the blowing up the paradigm of what healing and freedom needs to look like.
Oh, yes, to blowing up paradigms. Yes.
Are you tracking me? I'm just going out.
I'm so tracking you. And you know what thought keeps running through my mind? Like, I am booking a session with her as soon as we finish the Zoom call. That's what keeps going through my mind. So, Aubry, you have such gifts. And what I value the most is that you come from like such gentle love. It's like such a arms wide open, all encompassing, like divine mother love. And
see, there you go with your gifts again, like seeing people and putting it into words so beautifully.
Oh, thank you. I feel it so profoundly. It just, it's very easy to say because I feel it. So I know that everyone can hear just what a beautiful healer and channel you are. I'd love to give you an opportunity to share kind of ways that people can work with you and connect with you and all of that good stuff.
Well, I'm just going to be so, what came to my mind was, well, if you want to communicate with me, all of you need to realize that you have powers to communicate telepathically, and you can just start talking.
Yes.
I'm all over online as the Queen of Intuition. If you just look up queenofintuition.com, Queen of Intuition on Facebook, Instagram, you can find me. If you're watching and you get that sort of ping, I would love to do an energy reading with you. And I wanted to give you a code. I think it's for 20% off. It might be 25, but it's Star Mother, which is just all capital STARMOTHER, all one word. You can use it at checkout. And it's just so easy to, if you just go to my website and hit book now, you can put all that information in. But also what's really, like, it feels like this thing, the idea came to me in the middle of the night during a thunderstorm 5 months ago. This Psychic Development Institute, which is really psychic intuitive development, which is really about empowering people to do energy healing, to have freedom now, and to be their own intuitives and own psychics, to be their own gurus and their own healers, so that we wake up into this new age where everyone is so empowered. The class is full right now. There's going to be another one in September. So if that calls to you too, that's all on my website. But that's what's just really jazzing me right now. Anyway.
I love it. And when you speak about the world that is coming and being birthed, like, I feel it in every ounce of my being. We're kind of in the birth canal right now, which is not ponies and rainbows. It's hard. And I've been, I think, fairly honest in terms of where I am in that process too. But the more that we can give ourselves these like affirming and uplifting and juicy and loving and compassionate tools to kind of dance in this new reality that's coming forth, like, the more we can just soar, as it comes.
Yes. I always say there is no healers anymore. There are only activators. So healing is a frequency. Now, healed is a frequency that lives in your body. And part of what I want to do is like to activate that frequency inside of you and free you to realize you're already healed. Once all of us can really operate from that frequency, then even more ideas come in, Jessica, about how we can serve the world around us and heal some of the injustices. And yes, it's very exciting.
I'm writing this down. You're already healed. I think there's
healed is a frequency inside of you, and all that you have to do, even this call right now, it doesn't mean that you have to book something with me. It doesn't mean that you have to do anything else. This talk right now can activate within you that frequency that I am healed already, and then just go, you can go out from there. It's here, it's now.
Yeah, I hope everyone can feel that frequency, because sometimes we say like, oh, I'm working on this and I'm working on this, and that just feels so heavy. So to feel it already so deeply present within us, like there's so much profound empowerment in that. And I just want to offer everyone listening and watching the sense of the deep empowerment and forward motion that they have to really create a path that honors their own beautiful heart. Not that
yeah, and you know what? If you don't feel it, that's okay. You're going to.
Yeah, beautiful. So I usually end with a closing blessing, and I'm feeling called to explode my own paradigms and invite you, Aubry, if you want to just offer whatever's coming into your heart as a closing benediction for our listeners, as our world is emerging and as we are evolving. Any last words that you would like to share?
Yes. Okay. Yes. We take a moment for everyone here to call on all of the wisdom throughout all the ages. And what's coming through right now, may you be seen that there is this deep sense coming through for you right now. Oh, we see you. We see you. We see what you've been through. We see the struggle. We see the confusion. And that too, we see the exhaustion. We see it all. And you are not alone. And there is new energy coming into this space right now. There is new energy coming into your life right now to bring freedom. Imagine right now, I bless you with this great wind of change, this great wind of clearing that you can feel blowing in from the right side of your being and just blowing through you, blowing away old stories, blowing away old paradigms, blowing away old programs, blowing away the voices in your head that are not even yours, that maybe kept you safe. It's all blowing through. And so that you, even in this moment, you sit up a little bit taller, and there's a gentle smile that comes to your lips, and you just have this small taste that will be growing more and more for you in the days to come, this taste of freedom, of healing. And from that point, there is just this, I'm imagining all of you right now just sort of being sucked into this pillar of light and sucked up and out. And so that with this new sense of freedom, in comes ideas of actions that you can take to set not only yourself free even more, but everyone around us. And so it is.
So it is.
I don't know if that's what you were looking for, Jessica, but
you are such a light. We're ending there. It was so perfect. Thank you, Aubry. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We're going to share Aubry's website and offerings and all that good stuff. We got this, everyone. We're creating something beautiful together. Yeah, thank you.